today, I can't believe it is already April 25th, which is amazing and awesome. Summer is right around the corner, and that is the time when kids are going to need some tutoring, right? Some people find that this is a slow time for them, and some people find that this is a really busy time for them. So, wherever you're at in your business and with your tutoring, know that good things are going to happen if you keep putting in action. Now, today, you guys, I have a different kind of call. I am hanging out with Joshua, who has created these vocabulary words that are organized in this like amazing, beautiful drawing where you're able to understand and comprehend like what a word means really quickly. And it's so cool because there's so much discussion that can be brought around that vocabulary word. And you guys, one of the things that kids struggle with the most is being able to um, really understand what they're reading. And one of those reasons is because they don't understand the meaning of the word. I mean, think about it. Sometimes it's not just being able to pronounce the word, but if I don't know what the word means, how can I retain the meaning of what it is that I'm reading? And so he is increasing and engaging kids' vocabulary levels to amazing results. He's also an SAT tutor, which makes total sense. And the words that he's already created 4,000 of these. Yeah, you heard me right. 4,000 of them. And they are absolutely incredible. We're going to show you what they look like. But first, I want to introduce you guys to Joshua. So, hey, Joshua.
How are you? It's good to be here.
It's great to have you here. And you don't have school this week, right?
No, there's no school this week.
So you guys are on your official spring break.
Absolutely. Full fast.
And you're spending it here with us. How cool is that?
It's my pleasure.
I want to welcome, we've got Jean Harville in the house. Hey, Jean. Hey, Margarita. So glad that you guys were able to join us today because this is some really, really awesome stuff. You don't know this, Joshua, but Margarita is an ESL tutor, and she helps increase Spanish vocabulary, but she also goes the other way, and she helps people who are Spanish speaking learn English. And so this is an awesome resource that you have created for her as well. So tell us about what inspired you to be able to create these words.
I'm going to say that I briefly allude to it on my website. It began in college when I was called upon to present on a novel. I wasn't a big reader when I was young at all. And so I was confronted with, I remember the first couple of pages of a book that I decided to read, 2001: A Space Odyssey. And I'm reading through the first couple of paragraphs of this, and I'm saying to myself, what does the word desiccated mean? I'm coming across these words. They're totally foreign. They're totally exotic. And I have to know what they mean. And so what am I going to do? Now, I've always, my whole life, I've always drawn. I've always painted a little bit here and there. So I started, forgive me, library. I started just drawing little pictures in the margins. And that would correlate to whatever the word was. So in this case, so for desiccated, I just drew a little tiny desk and a camel on it, desiccated meaning really dry. And there was like some sand on it. And that was my way of remembering it. And I'd come across other words like intransience, like if you're intransient, you're really stubborn, you're not going to change your ways. So it was like a transam and a donkey. Like I would just scribble stuff out. And I really started to build for myself a pretty good vocabulary.
Yeah.
And when I took the GRE, the original GRE, well, not the original GRE, but the GRE where it was, it was very heavily vocabulary based at the time. It served me doing, creating index cards like that for myself, where it wasn't words and definitions, because we know that really doesn't have much of an effect. And, studying root words was never my thing. And reading the words in context, again, when you come across a word like desiccated and there's no context for it, how are you going to figure it out? It's like what you were talking about before. Kids are reading passages and they are either distracted or discouraged by what they're reading because, well, I don't know what this word means. And after a while, that begins to compound and the kid is, the book is all of a sudden on the side. It's like, do we want that? So I developed this, method for myself, and then it helped me really well in the GRE. And then I started tutoring for the GRE instead of actually doing that with the people I was tutoring, and it served them very well. So I started to sort of build my own personal cartoon lexicon of just, scribbles and sketches and ideas over time. And about 2 years ago, I really took it into full gear because I've always, worked with Photoshop um, and various other art programs on iPads and things like that. And I just started churning them out. And I had all these ideas, and people were really interested in it. And I said, maybe I'll take it to the next level. And then I published the books and the website, and that's sort of where I am now.
That is awesome. Now I know some people are like, okay, I can't wait to see some more of this. So I am going to share my screen just so you guys can see a couple of these. I'm going to hit share, and then you guys will be able to see what some of these look like. So here is Perilous. So I'm showing them Perilous right now, where we've got you have the pronunciation here so that they can pronounce it. You have the part of speech, what it means. I love that you just have one word here, like super simple definition, so that kids can understand it. Like there's no crazy weird words that they have to look up to figure it out. Right. And then you have a connection here. The pair was lost on a perilous sea of fire. Pair is lost. Perilous. And it's so awesome, because now that when they look at perilous, they can think pair is lost. Oh, he was lost because it was dangerous. And this picture can come up inside of their brain, and then they'll be able to do different things with it. So that is really, really cool, because we do learn by association. So tell me, there's so much psychology inside of what you're doing that I don't think anybody else would have been able to put together. So tell me about the psychology behind here and what you did.
In this case, I remember I was always a big philosophy buff, I guess you'd say. I was always a big fan of this philosopher named Ludwig Wittgenstein. And I remember I don't want to go too far into the weeds here, but I remember coming across a sentence that he wrote in his seminal book called the Tractatus, where he said, every thought is a sentence. This is one of the claims that he makes in the book, and it's a very important claim. But it always bothered me, because it's like, are thoughts really sentences? And now, in the context that he meant it, I might have misunderstood it at that time, being 19. But that always stuck with me. What is a thought actually, and what is a memory actually? Now, if I ask you what you had for breakfast this morning, it's not going to be a ticker tape of words across your brain. It's going to be smells and sounds and images of bacon and pancakes and orange juice and things like that. If I ask you about a particular memory that that affects you deeply, it's not words tickering across your brain. It's sensory impressions.
Right.
Fast forward about 10 years, I was watching, when you talk about psychology, one of the foremost neuroscientists, Steven Pinker, in an interview, he actually makes the claim, I paraphrase it, we think in pictures.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, that's really the case. Because if you ask someone what they did or about a particular memory, they think in pictures. Yes. Therefore, if we think in pictures, and if our memories are accessed via, pictorially, then wouldn't it make sense to learn vocabulary and new novel things using pictures, using mnemonics, using items that will stick in the memory? If I tell you what perilous means, I could tell you 100 times. It means dangerous, it means dangerous. And I ask you 6 months from now what it means, it might not have the effect. Also, the emotion on the face of many of the characters, the cartoon characters, emotion is something that sticks in the when we're afraid, when we are upset, those sorts of things. So the fear on his face might be stick more readily in the brain. So my first master's was dedicated solely to learning how students learn vocabulary. And it was over and over and over again. I really dug deep on that issue and determined that it was, in fact, mnemonics as the best way. Now, that's not to detract from the importance of learning root words and learning words in context, but the days of matching columns and index cards. Sorry, I'm getting phone calls here from one of the school districts that's actually ordering my book. It actually was. That that was the best way. So that was when you superimpose the data and you look at hundreds of different papers, it's almost always the conclusion that we think in pictures.
Yep.
And therefore, to learn that way, even with medical students, you know what I mean? There's so much, if you hashtag mnemonics in Instagram, so much of it is medical students using mnemonics in order to memorize.
Yeah.
Because it works. You know
It
what I mean?
works.
And if it works, and it speaks to the problem that you cited before concerning how children interact with reading, then that's win-win, because kids might, they're going to take to it, they might like it, and it's going to help them. It's like, where's the problem with this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting about these is you talk about the connotation that you've built in too. So many kids don't understand connotation, and therefore when they try to reuse a word, they use it improperly.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the connotation of it. And having some of these emotions on there helps them to do that. So I'm showing people right now accord. This is an official agreement. And so we have here the acorns achieved accord after their deliberations. Accord, acorn. Right. And remember, like, we've got the acorn here, and the conversations that can happen here are just absolutely phenomenal, right? Because you can talk about this word now in a way that you wouldn't have been able to talk about it before. Because can you really kind of see accord? It's kind of hard to see, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, I can go to Google and I can't pull up a picture of accord.
That's the problem. That's one of the things. I work for a company now called Premier Plus in Jericho. And the Jericho school district, and the SAS school district is where I'm working out of with my students at Premier Plus. And these students, a lot of these students come already with 1400s and 1300s and 1500s already on a 1600 SAT, and it benefits them as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like it speaks to a particular echelon or a particular strata of learning. I mean, you can take a student that has zero familiarity with exotic vocabulary, or a student that is already well versed and already has a well developed lexicon, like many of the students I work with, and they both benefit. And concerning connotation, absolutely, that's vital. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you're not using it properly, you want to avoid that kind of a situation. You also want to avoid situations where you're being prolix or using too many words or being verbose. It's really just again, to speak to the preface of this conversation, as a tutor, concern. You want kids to get the most amount of information as they possibly can out of the reading, and to enjoy themselves, not look at it as drudgery. It's going to be that if it's something that you can't understand, if it's impenetrable, and that's what happens after the vocabulary that I don't understand begins to compound in my mind, you begin to associate, it's the word you used before, reading with bad feelings.
Yeah, for sure.
So much of it is going the other way. You know what I mean? We're going in the wrong direction right now. Kids are not as interested in reading or holding their attention span. That's a lot of the neurobiological studies that I've been looking at are even the way the brain is developing now. The occipital, the visual part of the brain is like overgrown in so many young students, because they're watching things all the time. They're not really processing information the way they should be processing information throughout the brain. Do you know what I mean? So this might provide a way to reignite student interest in learning vocabulary. Like, I don't want to learn via column, but show me a picture of a waffle, like it's on the screen now, waffling, even though that's kind of, that's a little bit informal, that kind of a word. But, or if you take words, like you said before, that are abstract, like how do you actually, concretize a chord? The only real way is you're going to find something that it rhymes with, or something that at least shares some syllabic association with, like acorn. You know what I mean? Right. And for a lot of these words too, I don't draw just one picture. A lot of them, especially the unreleased ones that I have, it's a different way of presenting the word, and a lot of the words have multiple meanings, as you know. So in this case, I really just tried to focus on the most popular meanings of the words. For things like the Shakespeare books, everyone knows to be or not to be. Everyone knows that speech, Act 3, Scene 1, I think it is. But if you look at that speech, that incredible, incredible speech, it's riddled with vocabulary that is totally foreign to our to our mother tongue. What is a bodkin? You know what I mean? So for the Shakespeare books, I have a pumpkin holding a dagger, which is a bodkin, and things like that. That wouldn't make it into the regular vocabulary books because that's not something that's going to be useful to a college student or a graduate student. No one's going to ask you what bodkin means. You're not going to need to know that for a job interview. Therefore, whatever. But if you're trying to, appreciate fully, again, speaking of what you were originally talking about, and comprehend fully what Hamlet is talking about, you need to know what these words mean. And it's not going to be something you want to look up, maybe, but if it's right there for you and it's a picture, you may not forget it because we think in pictures.
Yeah, and we were having the conversation, just the two of us, a couple weeks ago of, the importance, even like the kids that have dyslexia, when they think, they completely think in pictures. And so when they do come across like other words that don't have a picture associated with it, they're going to struggle with it more.
Yeah.
Sometimes they come across like these like really large words and they're able to totally get the word. And it always amazes teachers. They're like, how in the world can they read that word, but they can't read the? Like, how does that happen? Because the doesn't have like a very like concrete meaning to it for them.
What do you anchor thought in? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. But like now you're taking some of these other words that they don't use in their everyday language, and they would be able to take a look at these images and be able to have conversations with other adults around them or other kids, and they'd be able to expand their vocabulary in just like incredible ways. Or they could even be challenged to come up with their very own thing that you've done, right? Their very own image that's going to help them. Like all of a sudden it might inspire some of those kids that do like to draw. I have found so many kids when I ask them to draw like a picture of like a word that we've talked about, they don't have enough information to be able to really draw a picture of it, right? And then they're concerned about their drawing abilities. And so they are totally turned off by that activity, even though it really helps them make it concrete for them.
Profound.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Now, you're not just this isn't like what you do like in your world every single day. Tell us about like the everyday life for you. What do you do? You're currently working in the school system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm working in a teacher / sort of a quasi administrator sort of capacity. And I used to be a full-time administrator, and then I moved out to Long Island. I used to be in the city. I used to be an assistant principal in the city. And after moving out to Long Island, I took on a different position because I found that, working as an administrator, even though we're not in this for the money, when I was working originally, when I was living in the city as a GRE tutor, I mean, the amount of money I was making as a GRE tutor was almost twice as much as I was making as a teacher. It was ridiculous. And so, in order to, I guess to serve that, financial need, I thought it wiser to do something I love, because teaching is the most fun thing in the entire. I mean, there is no greater job in this world. It's if you like being around students. I mean, what else is there in this world that you could ever do?
Yeah.
So I went back to teaching and then tutoring, because it's like, well, if I can bring in that much more income while teaching, why not do it? You know what I mean? It's the most fun thing, but I'm definitely feeling the pull back into the administrative role again. And so we'll see what happens with that. But I'm going to try to avoid that if I can, because I like my days to end at 1:50.
Yeah.
And then I can just tutor for the rest of the day. And that's the most fun thing. If you can do something that you love, that you're good at, and that is lucrative, and that serves other people, that actually helps people. I mean, those are the 4 keys of the kingdom right there. I mean, and that's exactly what teaching and tutoring provides. Who's into it,
Yeah, and that's so cool. And I found out that you also do the tutoring aspect. I'm like, wow, this is just so cool. And that's how you found our community, the ultimate support group for online tutors, because you're a tutor and you've got these words. And so you've been putting like a word kind of in once in a while just to kind of introduce people to it. But it's really cool to be able to see those and build up as tutors like our own vocabulary as well. So it's super awesome to be able to see that and be able to just stay connected with you. Like every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I'm staying connected with Joshua. Woo woo.
No, it's really, really great. And I found that, I find that the most wonderful thing is, working with students of a lower income strata. That's what I think is, because that's one of the things in a school district, the school district I'm at is taking, I have like sort of the two opposite extremes. You know what I mean? It's like I work with students from the most wealthy school district, one of the most wealthy in America, and one of the most, socially compromised, economically compromised, socioeconomically compromised, and to be able to take those skills and work with those students, who may have more difficulty actually paying someone like me the amount of
Right.
money that that I earn, is a phenomenal thing. That was the whole thrust of my doctoral research, is figuring out, the achievement gap, like what's actually sustaining the achievement gap. I found some pretty interesting things, but going back to actually how kids learn, and distractibility, and just looking at the stats, or looking at 438 high schools. Again, I don't want to go in the weeds on what my particular study, but those things came up over and over and over again, Things like vocabulary, things like reading comprehension, which students were having trouble with.
Yeah.
So much of it goes back to vocabulary, and so to provide that and to interact, and so many people on your forum, they're so giving. They're so cool. They're so interested. It's really a great place to be. It's really a great place to just check in every once in a while. Every once every 2 days, every day, and look what other issues people are encountering, and a lot of the times the solutions that they're furnishing for those particular concerns. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, and there's not another group out there for tutors like
Nope.
that, especially ones that are learning how to tutor online. It's sites that are just peppered with hire me, I tutor this, I tutor that.
Yeah.
This is our group is totally not that. In fact, those kinds of posts get completely thrown out the door, and the members are booted out, because we're really there to help each other. So
100%.
what are the problems that we're coming across? Obviously, we all need students. I mean, like, that's the obvious one. So don't just put your information out there. Like, everybody else is a tutor too, and they're looking for students. So let's brainstorm together how we can get students versus just throwing our information out there. So it's been a lot of fun to be able to watch that community grow from 0 to almost 4,600 people now. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Awesome stuff. Now, there are some people that you guys are out there and you guys are watching. You got to see some of what the words actually look like. And we're curious, because we're in creation stage now. Like, we're starting to brainstorm, like, how can we get this in the hands of more people? How can you see using this resource? So one of the ideas that I was coming up with Joshua was, let's do a membership site, something that's not a lot of money, like $5 a month, something like that, where people can access the vocabulary words and they would be able to use those with students. What are some ways that you guys think that you would be able to use it? Or what are some ideas that you guys have out there? Because you know what? The more ideas that we have, the better, because I want to get this in as many hands as absolutely possible, because I've seen kids struggle. I've personally witnessed it, okay? And I see their frustration learning these vocabulary words, and I want to make it easy for them, and this tool does that. So I think that by putting it in as many people's hands, it will definitely make it happen. So we've got Susan Franklin in the house. Hey, Susan. I know you've worked with, Susan's worked with Raz Kids and that whole community with the amazing books that they're putting on out there. And we've got Margarita, who's an ESL tutor. We've got Cindy Court in here. Woo-hoo. So thank you guys for coming on in and joining us. We want to hear your thoughts and your opinions. And if you like this content, definitely hit that like button there, and definitely hit the share button, the subscribe button, the little bell. Leave a comment, your thoughts. We want to hear what it is that you have to say. So Joshua, let's go to the SAT tutoring. Do you do in-person SAT tutoring or online SAT tutoring?
I do classes. So at Premier Plus, where I'm at right now, it's classes this week, and I also do one-on-one tutoring. Some of it, I'm trying to develop an online tutoring, more of an online tutoring clientele, via FaceTime and, Skype, Google Hangouts, that we're using right now. I've definitely done that with students across the country. It's again, because it's in its infancy, well, not in its infancy. I'm just reigniting my, my my tutoring career again now. So, yeah, eventually, I think that's the way to go. I mean, I have, if you look at my Instagram, Doctor underscore vocabulary, it is there's tremendous following in like China and India, and so many of these students, especially I found in India, are interested in taking the GRE and taking the GMAT and taking the SAT, and they're absolutely masterful in the way they approach it, and they benefit tremendously from things like just I'm interacting with them on a daily basis, and just providing them resources, interacting with them via FaceTime, via Skype. A lot of that I just do kind of pro bono in a sense. It's because I look at someone who speaks another language, whose mother tongue is completely foreign to me, and I'm sitting there saying to myself, this person is trying to, score, get a really good score on an English American standardized test. Like, wow, that is so bold. It's so amazing. It's so incredible. There's a gravity about that. Like, you just want to be there with them and help them and give them many resources as you can. And so I find that to be extremely gratifying. As far as actually tutoring, a lot of the places where you're interacting with people, maybe they don't have the economic resources to be able to deal with that. But I think in the future, as time goes on, especially I find in southern India, where there's more economic activity, you can set up things like that. But to be able to eventually have a class where I can teach students in India or teach students in Guatemala, an online course, it's something extremely cheap. It's extremely, but you're teaching so many, maybe you can teach 1,000 people at once.
Right.
That would be the ultimate. It's to really help people that really need it. But that's the fourth prong of the thing I just, the quadrifecta, I guess you would call it from before. It's like, if you can actually, if you're helping people and you're really getting a lot from that, like that's your why, you know what I mean, as they would say.
Yeah.
The why can withstand any how. That's your why. Like ultimately, that's what I'm doing. I'm helping people. I'm providing people a method, a way of articulating themselves, augmenting their elocution. You know what I mean? That is the most beautiful thing possible, because that's what makes us human, our ability to communicate.
Yeah.
And to augment someone's ability to communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? Again, this is over the rainbow kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It really, really is. I love that description. Margarita was wondering, she said, the people that you're talking about, what age are they particularly?
What, the students I work with?
Yeah.
Primarily right now, I have aside from only 2 students that are younger, everyone else is high school juniors and above at this point. So it's high school juniors, high school seniors, college students. Working with a couple of college students that are trying to get into graduate school, and they have to take the GRE. So I'm working with them on a daily basis. Those students I'm working with, virtually. I'm not meeting with them in person like I used to do when I was in the city. But that right now is the clientele I work with. But I find that I did not originally intend in any way to take on younger students, because I've always been a high school, college guy.
Yeah.
But this person that asked me, he's a friend of mine, he's an engineer, who was just emphatic. He's like, just meet the kids, work with them, see what you think. And I worked with them for 15 minutes. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually don't work with kids of that age, and it was great. You see so many lights going. You know exactly that look I'm talking about, right? That, oh wow, and this is great, and they're actually interested. And that I found to be wonderful. But primarily high school. But I would love to branch out into working with more kids in younger grades. Definitely.
Yeah, and we've even talked about too, like taking a look at some of the average vocabulary that like grade levels and that kind of stuff that those kids have, and the words that they need to know, and being able to create images around that too, to be able to support a wider range of people, which would be like so phenomenal. And yeah, and it is amazing. Like I never thought like that I would want to work with kids. I always thought I wanted to work with the kids that were struggling, but I've been asked to work with kids that they're not necessarily struggling, but their parents want to increase, where they're at so that they can be top of their class. And I honestly never really thought that that would be something that parents would want to pay for, but they care about the education of their child so much that they are willing to go to any lengths to do that. And I work with some kids like every single day of the week because their parents want their child to be on top of it. And it's just so cool to be able to work with those kinds of kids that they are excited. Sometimes they're motivated, sometimes they're not motivated, but it's always like a challenge. And it's a challenge in a fun way because it's like, oh my gosh, they pick up stuff so quickly. It's unbelievable.
At Premium, with the place where I'm at right now, Premium Plus, in Jericho, New York, it's these kids, all of them are seeking, I don't want to say every single kid, but I mean the majority of them are seeking Harvard and Yale and Princeton. I mean, they come to you with scores that are already like in that, that ionospheric level. It's like, wow, that is just amazing, and that you're at that level already, and like we're gonna just fine tune everything to get you almost, a near perfect score or actual perfect score. I've worked with many students like that across the years. A lot of teachers have asked me to tutor their children. That's originally how I got into it when I started teaching again. Can you work with my daughter? A math teacher might say something like, can you work with my daughter? She wants to go to Cornell, and she wasn't getting past the 620 on the SAT, and not on the SAT verbal section. Can you get her to a 700 or to an 800? That was always fun, because it's taking a kid that's already motivated and, showing them opening different doors or maybe illuminating doors that they had not seen before. And, watching that process unfold is a beautiful thing, and especially when they get that acceptance letter, it's like you're changing the trajectories of people's lives. And in some cases, generations, because kids that were not passing, like, my particular school district last year, we got the extremely high English passing rate, English regions passing rate. It was extremely, extremely high. And there were a lot of kids that might not have, benefited from that. But, working together, especially, again, like I said before, working with other teachers. Teachers are extremely giving people and extremely insightful. A little overworked, I would say, definitely. But,
not a little.
No, right? It's, but, without a doubt, they're so giving, and when you can work in a group or a team like that, and everyone, you get that concordance or of ideas and interest and that unified focus on a why, you can really change things. Again, generational trajectories, because a kid that may not have graduated is now graduating, and when that student grows up and has children of his or her own, they're going to benefit as a result of that parent having graduated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like a reverberating effect. And someday when you're looking in the rearview mirror of your life, you can say, I did that.
Yeah.
Made that happen. Or I contributed to it meaningfully.
Yeah.
Again, win-win,
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So Cindy is wondering, in your book, do you have any vocabulary that's geared towards any of the younger students currently?
It depends on, how you define young. I would say definitely. Okay, so a lot of the words on the website and on, the Dr. Vocabulary Instagram, those words that come up on there are some that are really exotic. They're really like shockingly exotic, like yaks. No one needs to know what that word means. I drew that picture and I selected that word specifically to catch people's attention. So, but the words in the books, however, they're much more accessible. They're much more useful. Again, the aforementioned word yaks has no meaning to anyone these days, but the words in the books are definitely going to serve. I would say middle school. I wouldn't say any younger than middle school. I mean, you're not going to get. It would be good to expose the kids to these words, without a doubt, to get them visually and audibly familiar with them. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert, in primary school learning, and as far as exactly what they have to, what is needed. But I share these with younger students all the time, and they like it. You know what I mean? They like to know that they know a word, that their parents don't know. I've had parents say to me, this was when I was in another high school, why is my son calling me a malevolent misanthrope? You know what I mean? They like it. They like the novelty of it. And seeing kids, I remember this one student was using the word opulent in a rap that he wrote, and it's like, he wants to live in opulence, he wants to live in luxury, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. He learned that. But as far as applicability to what primary school students are actually reading, I'd have to look at the actual texts, in order to make that determination. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap, but as far as what they're actually reading, I have to look at what they're reading, because all of the words that I've created illustrations for have been the result of just painstaking research, superimposing SAT lists, GRE lists, LSAT. I've tutored for that. There's a lot of vocabulary. The MCAT, no. I mean, MCAT. I'm sorry, I'm going so far in the weeds. I'm just trying to think of like where else, because the MCAT reading is not really, which I tutored one student for. The reading section for the MCAT is not really too vocabulary heavy, but LSAT definitely.
Okay.
But that's those for those lists. So that's really kind of geared towards the older students.
Right. Yeah. And like even if they had like a vocabulary word of the week where they get to talk about it and that kind of thing would be really, really cool. And you've been open to like creating words for some of the younger kids as well, which is absolutely awesome. And then we'd be able to organize like those words that are kind of like grade level specific words and all of that great stuff to be able to really start branching out into even those younger grades and even some of the strugglers up there in the middle school and high school levels would benefit from some of the easier words that some of the other kids have already been exposed to and understand and know. So there could be just this beautiful like overlap there. So we're excited. Lots of people are loving the idea of being able to do the of doing like the membership site, being able to get it. You have a book that you have created. The link is in the description, you guys. So if you guys want to check out his word cartoons, go into, just click on that link. And can they purchase your book on your link there?
Yeah. So if you just even Google my name, you just Joshua Furnell. I mean, you'll see that. You'll see a link to the Amazon. There's a collection of volume 1, 2, and 3, which contains 1,000 of the illustrations. It's sort of like almost a flashcard book. And then there's the additional 4 books that are dedicated to Shakespeare. So, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar, and Hamlet. The vocabulary words that you encounter in those texts for. So that's more high school. But the volume 1, 2, and 3, you'll get 1,000 words in those books.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you love doing this. So it's when I was talking to you, you're like, like I can like pull out these things just like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, like how in the world can you think like that? It's so incredible. You have a gift.
No, I mean I think it's something that anyone given enough time and effort and interest, really. I mean, that's what I think people end up being good at, is what they're interested in. If you have if you're interested in something and you really want to learn about it, you're going to become halfway decent at it. You know what I mean? I like to think that I'm like, halfway decent at this in the sense, only because though, it's not because of any great talent. It's just really, I'm just really interested in it. Like I was doing it for myself anyway. Again, harkening back to the beginning of the conversation where I was reading the word desiccated and going, what does this mean? Or in transience, what do these words mean? I'll do it. I would do it anyway. I mean, you could pay me like, rusty nails and peanut shells, and I'll still do this. I mean, it's not like I'm going to do this for nothing. I'm going to do this only if I get paid $1 million. It's not like that. Like this is something, and that's because of the why factor.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I know that people, one school district just is ordering, a whole bulk order of this stuff, and the Premium Plus. Tutoring, where I'm at now, is ordering the book to sell to students. That's great, and I'm so happy about that. But I would do it honestly either way. Like I really love the fact that I can remember the way I learned words, and it's like I remember the specific instance of how I learned it. The fact that something I did on an iPad, a drawing I created on an iPad, is going to impress itself on someone's brain, in someone's mind, and they're going to think back to the image that I created, and it's going to serve them someday in some way, in a job interview or in a conversation or in a speech that they're giving. But they're gonna have that because I provided that. I put that out there in the world. Oh my, like for free, I would do that forever. Like, why not? You know what I mean? You're really helping people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, you absolutely are. And you have this passion to be of service. And that's what this is all about. It's not about the what's in it for me factor. It's the how can I be of service to other people and
Ultimately,
help them get great results because of the resources
talking
and
people.
tools that I'm providing.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being able to hang out with us today and share your talent with us. I can't wait to see what we're going to be able to come up with to really get this in the hands of many, many more people so that you can monetize your talent and other more people are going to benefit because a lot of times people think, oh, if I just give everything away for free, I'll reach more people. But we want people to use your tool and your resource, and people value that which they pay for.
That's
So
a
you're
fact.
just going to have to make money with this. Sorry.
Oh no.
If that's the worst that happens, right?
Yeah, right. No, that's
Well,
excellent.
well, thanks again for joining us. It's been awesome being able to hang out with you. And Cindy says thank you. And people are just absolutely loving this and eating it up. So I can't wait to share it with more people. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Come join us next week as we talk about blogging. And I know people are scared about blogging and they're scared about where am I going to get an idea if I were to blog or do this so that people can find me and they can learn about me and all of this. Well, I have invited the amazing Suzanne Davis to come join me on a YouTube live so that you guys can learn more about blogging and how you can use it to get students. And this is exactly what she's been doing. She's got lots and lots of students. And so we want to be able to teach it to you so that you can begin getting students as well with your blogging. So come join us next week and have a great one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.